Yes or no? So we're in a series on the Proverbs, looking at wisdom, and the whole point of Proverbs is that every decision is a direction. It's pointing somewhere. It has a telos, an ultimate aim. We're going to pause the series after this week because next week we're going to start our series for the generosity initiative called All In. And I do want you to know, I'm not a fundraiser. This is not a fundraising series. It is a faith-raising series. So I'm not going to talk a lot about money. There'll be one sermon on money, but I am going to talk a lot about Jesus and the mission of God and what we're trying to do as a church together the last few years and in the future. We're also going to be talking about this in Bible classes starting on March 22nd. And I want to ask everyone, will you be praying for us as a church? Be praying for this next season in PV, and not just for PV, but also for our city and the people who are in our lives who are far from God and close to this church. Because ultimately that's why we're doing this, and I hope everyone will participate. So back to Proverbs one more time for a few weeks. Yes or no involves a direction, and every day you're making 70 decisions. And those decisions add up over time. It's 500 a week, 20,000 a year. There's one philosopher named Albert Camus who says, we are the sum of our life choices. In other words, eventually you will get where you're going. And your decisions are taking you there. And that's why Proverbs is trying to get you to consider wisdom. Now, the thing about Proverbs, I think everybody wants to live a good life. And that's what wisdom is to be able to live a good life. But the thing about Proverbs is we Americans, we want like 3 steps to wisdom or whatever. And you open it up and it's like reading a bunch of fortune cookies. It doesn't seem like it, how does it work? And the thing about Proverbs is it's actually not giving you a method. It's giving you the heart behind it. And today we come to this one thing that is over and over again in Proverbs. Keep circling around like a heat-seeking missile. And it's just this. The beginning of wisdom is to fear the Lord. Now, you may think, does that mean being afraid of God? It means a lot more than just that. It means to recognize, the beginning of wisdom is to recognize you're a creature. You were made. You are not God. And that's what to fear God means. It's like to acknowledge reality. You would think someone was very strange and unhealthy if a human being stood in front of the ocean without a sense of reverence and smallness. And that's the same thing. The beginning of wisdom is to recognize there is a God and it is not you. Or said another way, the beginning of wisdom is humility. And conversely, foolishness is always rooted, always, in pride. And Proverbs is going to say a lot of different ways. If you think you're wise, you're not. And if you know you're not wise, you're getting there. So here's some samplings of the book of Proverbs on pride. Here's what it says. Proverbs 11:2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. It always comes. When pride comes, then comes disgrace. But with humility comes wisdom. Or what about later on in the chapter? A man who lacks judgment derides his neighbor, but a man of understanding holds his tongue. Pride only breeds quarrels, but wisdom is found and those who are coachable, who can take advice. The Lord tears down the proud man's house, but he keeps the widow's boundary intact. You hear that? This is a big theme all throughout the Bible. Jesus preached it. Jesus taught it. The Lord opposes the proud. If you want God to stand against you, to actively resist you, have pride. But he exalts the humble. The fear of the Lord teaches a man wisdom, and humility comes before honor. Pride goes before destruction, always, and a haughty spirit before a fall. It is better to be lowly in spirit and among the oppressed than to share plunder with the proud. Haughty eyes and a proud heart, the lamp of the wicked, are sin. He who trusts in himself is a fool. You hear that? It's a direction. You have a direction. But he who walks in wisdom is kept safe. In Proverbs and really wisdom literature all over the place, the quickest way to ruin your life and the lives of people who are touching yours is pride. Now, pride is it's hard to comprehensively describe because it manifests itself in a million different ways for all of us, but it's the thing that keeps us from saying we're sorry when we knew it was our fault. It's the thing that keeps us from admitting our problems and confessing our sins with people that we trust, that are safe people that love us. It's the thing that makes me see my opinions as facts and your facts as opinion. It's the thing that makes me say things about myself that are just slightly untrue to make you think better of me than is real. It's the thing that makes us go into crushing debt to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't even like. It destroys our marriages, our friendships, and some of us, our faith. And here's the thing about pride. We have no problem seeing it in other people. Like, you can see it in people around you easily, but it's so hard, and you hate it when you see it in them, right? You don't want to hang out with those people. You don't want to be around those people, but it's so hard to see in the mirror, and on those rare occasions when you can spot it in yourself, we trick ourselves to thinking that with them it's gross, but with us it's healthy. With us it's confidence or high self-esteem or something like that. Pride at its core is this: the need to be superior to somebody. Pride doesn't just want good, it wants to be better. The way C.S. Lewis said it is that pride takes no, that's actually one of the Proverbs, right, that we just read, that pride derides his neighbor. A man who lacks judgment derides his neighbor. In other words, it makes you look down on people. And that's what C.S. Lewis says. He said, pride doesn't get joy from having something. It gets joy of having more of something than the next person. So you're not proud that you're successful. Your pride is that you're more successful than these other people. And if you don't think you do this, just pay attention to your own heart and life for one day. Because we do it politically, we do it spiritually, we do it socially, we do it morally, we do it online, everywhere. We think we're smarter than them, we're more moral than them, we're more open-minded than them, we're more biblical than them, we're wealthier than them. Everybody's got a ladder. And it's very important for us humans with our pride to be higher on a rung than somebody on that ladder. We will orient our entire life to that goal. Because deep down, we're all trying to prove we matter. It's like we're in a courtroom and our life is just presenting evidence all day long. See, I'm a good parent. I'm a good person. I'm successful. I'm disciplined. Pride is the endless struggle of trying to prove you count. And the reason pride is so heavy and so hard is because pride wants God's job. You know, that's the story of Adam and Eve, right? They weren't reaching for the fruit. They were reaching for the throne. And if you pay attention to your own life, you do this. You know, in Proverbs, there's a word that is used for pride repeatedly that is used for God everywhere else. Supreme majesty. It's saying when we're prideful, we want the supreme majesty. Pride is wanting to run your own universe. I'll decide what's right. I'll define my worth. I call the shots. I don't answer to anyone. No one can tell me what to do. Pride is saying, I'll be my own savior. Thanks. But here's the problem, and you may be experiencing this even now. When pride has you in its vice grip, when you put yourself at the center of the universe, you also invite so much pressure into your life that you were never designed to carry. And so every situation becomes, how does this affect me? How does this make me look? Where do I rank? And this self-obsession, it is absolutely miserable. It leads to more than arrogance. It's self-absorption, which, by the way, in the Christian tradition, both high self-esteem and low self-esteem can be rooted in pride. I mean, think about somebody walks into a room and they're like, I'm better than everyone in here. And another person walks in the room and they're like, I'm worse than everyone here. And both are still obsessed with themselves. This is why C.S. Lewis, who had a lifelong struggle with pride, self-admittedly, he said, you know what? You know what humility is? If you ever truly met a humble person, you wouldn't walk away thinking about how humble they were. What you would walk away thinking was, they sure were interested in me. Because to be humble is to be freed from the prison of pride and self. It's to see people as genuinely interesting around you, realizing there are other stories besides your own. Because a humble person realizes that they're not God, and the world doesn't revolve around them. But because this sin is so deeply rooted, I wanted to come at it another way than just the Proverbs today and tell you a story. It was my favorite Bible story when I was a kid. I mean, honestly, I read this story over and over again. So kids, listen up. This story slaps. It's so good. My kids are cringing right now. Okay, so I chose this story that kind of exemplifies all the words of warning of pride in Proverbs. So here it goes. But first I got to set it up. Have you ever wanted credit so bad? Have you ever wanted respect so badly, recognition so badly that when someone didn't give it to you, it didn't just get under your skin, it lived in your head, rent-free? You know, you replayed it, you started having imaginary conversations that never happened, you started building a case in your mind. I think everyone has, because there's something inside all of us that wants to be seen, heard, honored, and validated. And when that doesn't happen, we don't just get sad, we don't just get mad. Sometimes we get dangerous. And that's where this story begins. It's in the book of Esther. It's the newly minted Jewish queen named Esther. She's just been made queen by King Xerxes, but nobody knows she's Jewish. King Xerxes has a second in command, a guy named Haman. And Haman has everything you could possibly want in life. He's got power and influence and wealth and proximity to the king. He was second in command, so it's as high as you can go without wearing the crown. And King Xerxes does something small but really huge, because he's so proud of the job Haman is doing. He commands that everyone in the empire, whenever Haman walks through, has to kneel and bow to Haman. Now, I want to pause here because I know you don't live in a culture where that is required, where none of us bow. It's just a different world. But I also want you to know this, that if we lived in that world, you would want people to bow to you. And you'd probably be upset if some people were bowed to and you weren't. So that's the order. King Xerxes makes everyone bow to Haman because he's doing such a good job. And everyone does except one guy, a Jewish man named Mordecai. And Mordecai doesn't do it dramatically, not loudly. He just won't bow. And here's what's fascinating and where you start to see pride. Haman doesn't just notice. He fixates. Because pride, and see if this isn't true in your own life, pride does not count the people who honor you. It only pays attention to the people who don't. Does that ring true in your life? You could get 100 attaboys or attagirls. You could get 1,000 compliments, but the one criticism just sticks in your mind. So that's the scene in Esther chapter 3. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. It's not enough just to kill him, because he can do that like that. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. And here's what pride does. It always escalates. It has, after all, a direction. And Haman's thinking, if one Jew won't bow, I will eliminate all of them. So he manipulates King Xerxes. He spins a story about how they're this subversive group of people that don't obey the king's laws. So he gets him to sign an irreversible decree that on a certain day in the near future, all the Jewish people will be killed, men, women, and children, because one man won't bow. And here's where you start to see the direction of pride. It's amazing how one guy's personal insecurity can become public destruction. Pride goes before the fall. And in the end of this trajectory is always the fall. But here's the thing I want you to see. Pride is not just that pride has a direction. So does humility. You know, Proverbs says God opposes the proud and lift up the humble. So while this is happening, there's a twist Haman doesn't see coming, because Queen Esther is a Jew and nobody knows she's a Jew. And Mordecai, the guy who's about to get killed by Haman, nobody knows he's her uncle. And so Mordecai comes to Esther and says, listen, it's time to stop playing it safe. You got to tell the king you're a Jew. And so Esther risks her life. She approaches the king uninvited, and she asks the king for a favor. The king says, I'll give you anything you want, up to half the kingdom. And she says, here's what I want. I want a small dinner party with you, me, and Haman. And the king's like, of course, let's do it tomorrow. So she invites Haman in. The king and her and Haman have a banquet. And at the banquet, the king's like, now what do you really want? And she says, what I want is one more dinner party tomorrow night with Haman, which is a bit like asking a genie for 3 more wishes, I think. But anyway, they do it, and the king's like, okay, fine. And so Haman comes to this special dinner. You know, he's with the king and the queen, and he just leaves feeling on top of the world. Here's what it says in Esther 5. Haman went out that day happy and in high spirits, but as he's leaving, he sees Mordecai at the king's gate. And guess what Mordecai didn't do again? He neither rose nor showed fear in his presence. And he was filled with rage against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home. And calling together his friends and Zeresh, his wife, Haman boasted to them about his vast wealth, his many sons, and all the ways the king had honored him, and how he had elevated him above other nobles and officials. And some of you are like, I've been at the party with that guy. Don't be that guy. And that's not all, Haman added. I'm the only person Queen Esther invited to accompany the king to the banquet she gave. And she has invited me along with the king tomorrow. And then you can't read this next part without a little whiny voice. But all this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate. Now, I'd like to pause there and ask, is this not true? Is this not true in your life? Some of us have everything, but we can't enjoy it because we're nursing some private grievances of our pride getting hurt. And so as friends, they're like, look, you're a big deal, Haman. And this one guy, Mordecai, he's not a big deal at all. So why don't you just kill him? Why don't you get ahead of the whole genocide thing that you've got plotted and just kill him and do it publicly? And so they say, you could do that. And he's like, you're right. And so that very night, he builds a 75-foot tall gallows to hang Mordecai the next day. And Haman goes to sleep and dreams of killing Mordecai. But King Xerxes can't sleep. And when kings can't sleep, someone's either going to get killed or get a promotion. And King Xerxes asks, hey, I can't sleep. I've got insomnia. Bring me the chronicles of my reign. I want to read the history book of what has happened in my reign so far. And so they bring him the history book. And he opens to a page of a few years ago. There was an assassination attempt. And somebody saved his life, risked their life to save his. And guess who that somebody was? Mordecai. And Mordecai had never been honored and never pushed for it. So you can see, as the story unfolds, the direction of these two things: pride, but also humility. And the Lord opposing the proud, but lifting up the humble. That King Xerxes just happened to not be able to sleep, and just happened to have that book brought to him, and happened to turn to the page of the assassination attempt he had all but forgotten, and realized there was this clerical error where the guy who saved my life did not get any honor for it. And so the next morning, Haman, and this is so great, Haman walks in and he's like, he's gonna ask, hey, I got this gallows built. I want to get ahead of the genocide. I want to kill this guy. He's a jerk. You'll never miss him. You don't know him. His name's Mordecai. He wants to ask that. But before he does, the king asks Haman this question: What should be done for the man the king delights to honor? Now, who do you think Haman thinks the king is talking about? Yeah, himself. Because pride, you're the main character. This whole thing's about you. And so he's planning, comes up with this elaborate ceremony. He says, here's what you should do. You should take Haman, whoever, you should take him and you should put him on your finest horse. You should put him in your royal robes, put the royal jewelry on him, feed him elaborately, and then march him on the horse all over Persia with, somebody yelling the whole time, this is the man the king wants to honor. And the king's like, great idea. Go do that, Haman. For a guy, you probably won't know him, Mordecai. And so Haman has to do that. He has to dress Mordecai, this guy who won't bow, who he hates, who lives in his head constantly. He has to dress him with royalty. He has to put royal jewelry on him. He has to feed him nice. He has to put them on the royal steed and march through. And Haman has to yell all over Persia, this is the man the king wants to honor. And I think the only thing that got him through this day is that at least tonight, I get to go to that awesome banquet with Esther and the king. And so he shows up expecting another formal, pleasant dinner party. And it's there that Esther says, King Xerxes, you may not know this, but I am a Jew. And this man, he's the true subversive one. He's the one that tricked you into putting a genocide order for me and all my people. And King Xerxes is so mad. He storms out of the room. What kind of hubris would make you think I'd sign off on you killing my wife? He storms out of the room, and Haman, who can read the tea leaves real quick, realizes his only shot to live another day is Esther. So he falls on her mercy, but he actually also falls on her. And the king at that very moment walks back in and says, will you assault my wife in my own home? And Haman doesn't say another word. They grab him. He's like, execute him. And they're like, hey, actually, king, yesterday, there were these 75-foot tall gallows built right outside his house. And the king is like, hang him on the gallows he built. And here's why I wanted to tell you that story. And why it mattered so much to me as a kid. Haman did not fall because of bad circumstances. Haman fell because of unchecked pride. And when your life is built on recognition instead of character, on status instead of humility, on power instead of purpose, eventually the structure collapses. And the thing you built to elevate yourself becomes the very thing that destroys you. So here's the question. Where are you tempted to demand honor instead of earn respect? Where are you nursing a resentment or grievance that's bigger than the situation itself? Where is pride quietly trying to write a story in your life that could end very, very badly? Because pride, listen, it always has a direction. But so does humility. So the Haman story, it's not just history, it's a warning. It's an invitation to choose humility before life forces it on you. Do you know the ancient Christians, they were so good. They were so good at understanding the grammar of interior life. Kind of the way we human beings function in a way that I don't think modern secular people come close to it. And one of the things they said is that the sin beneath all the other sins is pride. And it's so important that the virtue, the most important virtue, at least at first, is not love. Love is the preeminent virtue. It's the most important in the long run. But love is not the first virtue that a Christian has to learn. It's humility. Because if you don't have humility, you'll never be loving. You'll just care about looking like you're loving. And They knew this was so important. It's so important for the kind of life you'll have and the kind of heart you'll have and what kind of person you'll become. You have to kill pride because pride is lying to you. So I want you to remember, listen, whenever you walk into a room and you're the most important person in the room, whenever you can call a meeting and everybody will come and they'll turn and they'll look at you, want to know what your opinion is. In those moments, remember when you drive up to your beautiful home and your beautiful car, whenever you get that invitation to do stuff that everybody else didn't get an invitation to do, whenever you get the raise or the promotion or the attaboy or attagirl, and you start to think, it's about time someone noticed. For some of us, it's the moment when you realize that you have more than other people, that there are people who have less than you, who have less education than you, who have less training than you, and you start to think about how you have stuff that they don't have, and you've traveled where they haven't been, and you start to regard yourself more highly. Remember, in that exact moment, in those moments, you're going to die. You're a creature. You didn't make yourself. You're not even in charge of your own pulse. You didn't make yourself. You didn't make your personality and your talents and your gifts. You didn't choose when you would be born, where you would be born, what family you would be born, and you have no control over the end. This is the beginning of wisdom. It is to fear God and realize you are a creature created. And do you know, if you believe in Jesus, if you're a Christian, you already believe this, right? I mean, you know what the gospel is. Think of it this way. I almost thought about doing this. One of my best preaching friends, Brian Shackman, is here, and I was going to invite him up here, and I was going to give him a wrapped gift. And he was going to open it, and it was going to be mouthwash. Now, what are you saying if you give someone the gift of mouthwash? Come on, what are you saying? Yeah, your breath is stanky. And if you accept that gift, you're acknowledging this about you. This is the gospel. Do you realize grace before it's anything? And it's all grace. But before it's anything, it's an indictment. It's saying we can't do this on our own. We can't save ourselves. We can't get church right enough. We can't get doctrine right enough. We can't get our morality or our ethics right enough. We're a creature. We're creatures that are sinful. Let me tell you what the gospel is. The gospel is you're so sinful and prone to evil, so flawed, that nothing less than the death of the Son of God on the cross can save you. And God was happy to do it for you. That God loved you enough to do just that. It was our pride that killed Jesus. And it was his humility that let us do it. So how does killing pride look? And I heard a preacher say this over a decade ago. He said, whenever the voice of pride gets in your head, and I hope you can recognize it, whenever the voice of pride starts getting in your head, talk back to it. Start saying stuff back to it. When we hear it whisper, say to it, no, you know what, pride? I'm going to go apologize to them, no matter how many excuses you keep giving me, because I know I was at fault. And I'm going to say so. In fact, you know what else, pride? I've been starting to think the reason I've been so angry isn't for all the reasons you're giving me. I think it's some of the stuff you're giving me. I think it's some self-righteousness and blindness. And you know what, pride? That person you made me jealous of, the one that got the promotion that I didn't get but I thought I deserved, you know what I'm going to do, pride? I'm going to go congratulate her. I'm going to go brag about her to other people. And you know, pride, you know those parents that I don't like because their kids, I like their kids better than my kids? I'm going to brag on their kids. And I'm also going to see the good in mine and brag on my kids. Pride, you know what else? I'm going to admit I have a drinking problem. I'm going to admit that this addiction has gotten out of control. And I'm going to tell someone else about this. Because for years you've been whispering about all the shame if other people knew. But no more pride, because I'm not going to listen to you one more day. Because pride, you keep making me think I'm godlike. And I'm starting to realize God isn't like that at all. This is why it's the sin behind all other sins, because you were made in the image of God, and God isn't like that. Church, who can be proud when heaven is humble? Who can puff up their chest and act big when God became small? That's what God is like, and it's why pride is so bad. Let's kill it. Okay, we have a couple of college students, UALR college students, getting baptized right now. I want to invite